Hey, I want to talk about sort of the buzzy buzz from this weekend. President Trump's tariff powers are most likely going to be expedited and determined by the Supreme Court. And, in the meantime, the United States has been collecting tariffs, right? And I don't remember what the most recent number that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent offered, but it's a lot of money. I mean, this is more than a tank of gas, right? I mean, there's some real dollars involved in this, measured in the billions, right? And the hypothetical is here, what if the Supreme Court rules against Trump and the Trump administration and says, you know what, you didn't have the right to collect these tariffs? Well, Scott Bessent had said that they would have to do a refund. And I guess the question becomes, to whom would that money be refunded? The Supreme Court hasn't heard this case yet. President Trump would like them to expedite and hear this case quickly because obviously it's the underpinning of, a significant amount of his economic policy. But it begs the question, if the Supreme Court rules against President Trump, where does this money go? And who's gonna get it? Does it stay inside the United States? Does it leave the United States? Dr. O, take the floor.
I mean, the big question is who pays for the tariffs, right? Who pays the tariffs? And the people who pay the tariffs are those business owners who imported goods from elsewhere, who some of them passed on, ate some of the cost, and some of them passed on the cost to consumers in the form of higher prices. And so those business owners are going to are going to see a windfall. And the windfall is either going to be, essentially higher profits for them, right? Because I doubt they're going to send rebate checks to their customers. Right. So that's ultimately it. And I also doubt their prices are going to come down as a result, right? Once you get a price increase, it's very difficult, very rare, unless you see demand falling substantially. It's very rare that a business owner will say, well, you know what? We got a big rebate, so we might as well pass on the discounts to our customers. But ultimately, that money will be back in the hands of U.S. businesses and consumers, because those business owners consume and spend. The problem is the uncertainty in the current economic environment doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go out and expand their operations and hire more workers, right? And so who knows what's going to happen? I think the fair assessment here is that some of it will be spent, some of it will be reinvested, some of it will be stored somewhere under a mattress, right? I mean, who knows? But anyway, that is my assessment here. Ultimately, it's stimulative. It's money. Some of it will be spent. Some of it will be invested, and it will stimulate some stuff right here locally. If a lot of it is spent, then that could contribute to price pressures.
I mean, aside from the mechanism, what's the fundamental difference of whether the United States government offers stimulus to certain Americans or if it does rebates? If the money's going to go back into the U.S. economy, how should we just as regular people sort of, gaze upon this phenomenon?
If it goes into the pockets of lower income Americans, it will likely be spent because they save a lower share of their incomes. If it goes into the pockets of wealthier Americans, well, there's no telling whether or not it will go right back into the economy or will be stored somewhere, right? So that's the trick here. Also, higher income folks spend a lower share of their income, right? So we know that they have much higher savings rates. If it's invested, businesses are not necessarily going to go out and hire new workers, right? And so maybe it will be funneled into some more of these AI investments, right? Ultimately, if you want a big stimulus, you put it in the hands of lower income Americans because they will likely spend it for everyday necessities right away. Just like we saw during COVID, the stimulus checks that had a tremendous impact on spending.
You almost said the word positive there. I was going to be like, oh my goodness. You're forming the word positive, I was being like, whoa,
because it causes consumption to go up.
I get that. I know, but it's the whole that we're I feel like the hole that we're still climbing out of. I mean, has so much to do with the economic decisions that were made 5 years ago. Like, if people don't believe that, the things that you do now come back to you later on. I mean, honestly,
what you're trying to say, there's no free lunch, right?
There is no free lunch,
right? We got some stimulus checks, and it turned into 9% inflation at some point.
Yeah.
Right. Which eroded our consumer consumption, right? Our purchasing power. It's a tax. Inflation's a tax. So we got some money, and then we got taxed for it later on.
That's right.
I think a lot of people don't really.
That's where your $8 dozen of eggs came from, ladies and gentlemen.
Right. Well, that's okay. That's
part of it. Not
the egg story, because we had some issues with that. But used car prices and all kinds of things.
All right.
It's more expensive. Everything else, right? And so I mean, we paid for it. We paid for it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think we're still paying for it. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate this. I mean, the chit chat on this. I mean, this is something that's in motion. Hopefully it will make its way to the Supreme Court soon. We'll have an idea of whether or not President Trump's economic policy is good to go, or if they're going to have to rescope it. I mean, tariffs was just such a huge part of that. All right. Well, we'll come, Orphe, and then be right back. We're going to do another show. So for Orphe Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you listen to Dr. O and me every week on the Center Square Radio Hour.